fantasy.
Yes, they see our little picture in the box.
This is a fantasy game?
This is a fantasy game, Margie. Margie, thanks so much for coming on the show. This is Let's Gay. I'm Johnny Jungle Guts, the top-notch gamer, a.k.a. the top-notch gamer. And we're playing Final Fantasy VI with Margie. How do you pronounce your last name? Schnibbe. That's what I thought. Schnibbe.
Here in Germany, you'd say Schnibbe.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
And performance artist. We're still recording.
Oh, good.
And
Cute.
and thanks so much for being on the show, Margie.
I'm really excited because I don't know so much about this game, so I'm really excited to watch you play the game.
And what else are you doing today? You're in a lovely bee costume today. I hope we're getting that on film.
Well, I thought I was supposed to come in a costume, so I chose this costume because Johnny did a performance last year at the LA Art Book Fair with a shake weight performance. What was that? I don't know what you called it. But I was asked to be in that, and then I wore the bee costume for that.
That was really beautiful.
And tonight I'm going to my drag queen astrologer's birthday party, and I'm going to wear the bee outfit.
Wow. So does this drag queen use astrology, do astrology in drag?
No, he doesn't do astrology in drag, but I was going to ask him that. When we have the appointment, it's like it's a serious appointment. But he also does like really uplifting, positive drag performance as Princess Poodle Poo Poo or something.
Oh, wow.
At Akbar and other places.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you had your astrology done by this drag queen?
Yeah, it's called, but actually, I don't even, I think he's sort of androgynous as a performer.
Oh, okay. It's not maybe really drag queen's not the right word.
No, but he has a lot of drag queen friends. Mm-hmm. So I think it's tonight the party. Maybe it's just a costume party. I may have called it a drag queen party.
Sure.
But no, he's a life coach, astrologer, numerologist, and his name is Bill Mayer. And
cool.
He's really good. And I met him through David Burns of Fallen Fruit. And David Burns first recommended an astrologer in Canada whose name I can't remember, and I used to use her. It was a woman. I don't remember. Maybe I'll remember.
Yeah.
And then I switched to this astrologer who's now in Echo Park, and he's really amazing. And I go once a year for a reading, or if I'm having a big problem, we go, and I tell him the problem. We look at the cards. No, he looks at the chart.
Yeah.
Chart. Yeah, see, I don't do it. So.
Right. What kind of big problems are we talking about?
Oh, last year I had a big problem because I had to move.
Yeah.
And I was like flipped out. It was like I had to leave Silver Lake. I was really like freaked out. So I sent him an email. Oh my God, my landlord's selling my house. What am I going to do? And then he said to me, list 10 things you want in your next location. So I did that, and then he read my chart because he knows my date of birth, time, all that stuff. And then he said I should just go build out a commercial space. So that's what I did. And he said to just take the plunge and just do that and move further away. And that seemed to be the right thing for me to do.
Sure.
Of course I did that, and now I have massive amount of debt. And, but I did use some money for my landlord. But I think in the end, that's the best thing to do. Mm-hmm. So, that neighborhood's changing a lot. But I like it here in Chinatown. It's nice.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Margie, can you read me the first couple sentences of this paragraph?
As you enter Narsha, you'll automatically be taken to the house of the elder.
Okay, did that. Next.
After a scene, leave the house and head to the treasure house on the east side of town.
Oh, I bet it's supposed to say east.
Oh, east side of town. I thought maybe it was like the restaurant.
I know, that's what I thought at first, too.
Like, ooh, what are they serving? That you visited once before. Inside, you'll find Lone Wolf, the pickpocket, and it seems he has stolen the treasure.
Okay. All right, we just did that.
Okay.
Just saw him.
You need the instructions. Now leave the house and follow him around Narsha. then up into the mines.
Okay, well, let's follow him around for a second here.
Is that right, Narsha, the way I say it?
I don't have any idea. A lot of these, these games don't have audio track, so the way you pronounce the towns in these fantasy environments is completely, to a certain degree, up to you.
I'll call it Narsha.
Narsha is prettier than Narsh, I think.
Narsh sounds kind of harsh.
Narsh sounds kind of harsh. So.
Oh wait, then up into the mines.
All right, I think we've chased him about that much.
Do you want the next line or?
Sure, give me the next.
When
next
you enter the mines, follow the tracks and take the first right you come to.
Okay. So what sign are you?
Scorpio.
Okay.
Moon in Libra. Sun in Sun is Scorpio. Moon in Libra. Rising is Leo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, what is I don't know a lot about astrology. What is the traits of Scorpio?
Scorpios are like really passionate. They're really intense. A lot of people say that Scorpios are like the sex sign, but they're also really loyal, like dogs. They kind of, I feel kind of like that. There's a sort of sense of loyalty that is very strong, and I think also not routine, but I think Scorpio likes a kind of security in some way. I think some Scorpios, there is some aspect to Scorpio where you're kind of like a behind the scenes person, but then Leo is very, very out there. Leo is really an extroverted.
Right.
I think I don't know all of this so well because he does that, and I don't know so much. I only know a little thing about it. And then the moon in Libra, I'm not exactly sure what that means, but my ex-husband was Libra Sun, and I was moon in Libra, and we kind of got along okay, so we did for a while, yeah. So I don't know what that means, but then he does things with like transits. There's all these words I don't know exactly what they mean. Transit's moving, but
Right.
So I leave that up to him. So.
Sure.
That's good. It's helpful.
Yeah, I really like astrology. I go to Marty Wendell. Do you know her?
No, so you go to one too.
Every once in a while I'll go in, but and Scorpio's born what time of the year?
November.
And where were you born, Margie?
Yonkers, New York.
Oh my gosh.
By Manhattan.
So what was that? What's that like? That area?
Yonkers is like, I was born in the hospital like right near Son of Sam, like where Son of Sam did all those killings or something, or like I don't know, those killings. It was like when I was a kid, grew up in Hastings on Hudson, which is a suburb. Yonkers is the city, and I had a friend there, and we used to go to this place called Devil's Cave, where they said people did dog sacrifices and satanic worship. And then when Son of Sam story broke, it turned out that like he was a part of that circle, so I mean, it's just like a city. It's a city next to the Bronx, basically, on the Hudson River.
Uh-huh.
And then my town is the next town up, next to that. And there's all these little towns squished close together. If you take the commuter train from Manhattan, let's say you're going to like Poughkeepsie or something, and there are all these stops with all these little towns.
Uh-huh.
So that's where I grew up.
And what brought you out here?
Well, I lived in Manhattan a long time, and then I came here to go to graduate school.
Yeah.
Cal Arts.
For art?
Film. I ended up going film. I was undecided between art, film, or experimental animation. It was experimental film. And at the time, I was in New York working as a dominatrix, and I filmed I filmed a session. Maybe you've seen the movie with it's like a pre-op. Mr. Samantha, who was like pre-op trans woman, and a 400-pound man, and we got paid to do the session and film it.
Okay.
And then I used that as a part of my application for film school, and they let me in.
At Cal Arts?
At Cal Arts, with like kind of like porno. And I mean, there was other stuff too I sent, but that was one of them. And I had like a Manhattan Public Access show. And,
oh, wow.
yeah, I mean, that's like...
What'd you do on there?
On that one, I did a couple. One I did with my friend at the time, Red Ed, and we went around the East Village. And he is kind of a I think he's here now. He's a very unique person who filmed the sort of East Village scene, and he was called Red Ed. He's a man, but I think he sort of identifies his gender was kind of fluid, and that sort of at that time that sort of upset some New York feminists, and they wouldn't let him into like this whatever that feminist group was that all these women were a part of. Like they wouldn't let him in because they said he was a man, but actually his legal name is Carol Ann, and he's a woman. You know, so it's a kind of funny time. And we used to like one time we took one of my clients on his show, and it was this kind of a silly, fun show. And then my show, I just sort of videotaped stuff around my life and my friends. And at the time, I was living in the Hotel 17 with a bunch of club kids. You know.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't a club kid, but I hung out with them because they lived there, and I worked with Amanda Lepore, and you know, I was sort of around that whole disco 2000 thing, but I was not a club kid.
You were just you were just around it? But
yeah, because I lived there. In the hotel, there were all kinds of, it was an SRO, so there were like the old people who had these cheap rooms in New York forever, rent controlled. Then there were like European tourists, and then there were like nightclub people and sex workers and rock and roll people, and so they kind of came and we paid weekly. And in New York, if you live somewhere for 28 days, you have rights to that place. And so we all lived there for longer than that, so we became these residents. So it was a kind of mix of, and then there was like a supermodel, and then there were junkies. Like it was a kind of hip. It was like the Chelsea Hotel for people who had less money, you know.
Okay.
It was like poor man's Chelsea Hotel for a couple of years. A lot of sex workers. So sex work was also a way that a lot of people just made money then. It was kind of easy.
Yeah.
You know, the world has changed a lot. It's not the same.
Wow. Can you just read me, I think, the path?
The path is pretty straight and linear, leading up to the cliff at the top.
Okay, we're headed there.
When you arrive, you'll find the lone wolf.
All right, I'm seeing him.
Stand there and don't move like he tells you to. Soon enough, you'll have to make a choice.
All right, I'm just going to stand here and I won't move.
If you go over and talk to the lone wolf, you'll get the gold hairpin, an extremely rare relic. However, not entirely unique, as you can get more near the end of the game.
Yeah.
There's another option. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
Your other option is not a relic, but rather a new character, so make the right choice and recruit Mog.
I think that's this little teddy bear guy right here.
Into your party simply by talking to him.
Got him.
Okay, now that Mog is in your party, you can return to Narsha again.
Mm-hmm.
You will probably want to check out the various shops which have restocked new items since your last visit to the town. Are you there yet?
I'm just recruiting Mog right now.
Oh, okay.
But I need to...
M-O-G says.
Yes, but I'm going to name him James after my friend James Raymond.
Oh, I see. Oh, who? James?
I don't know if you know James. Oh, he was at the art show, but he's a video artist and he makes a lot of work with stuffed animals.
Oh,
so I thought
that.
He looked cute with... that he was related to this character. I named all the characters in this game after close friends of mine throughout my life. So that's why I named. And he was the very first guest I had on the show was my friend James. I'm sure I'll have him back on. But so how did you? So everything just sounds just totally over the top in New York.
It was the 90s. You know, in the 80s and 90s. I left before, Giuliani, and then everything started to get really square.
Oh, yeah?
Uh-huh. It changed everything.
Because he shut down all the strip clubs?
There was that, and there were weird nightclub laws, and then I guess gentrification. I mean, I was here, so I don't know what happened.
Right.
And then after that, it was Bloomberg. And it became more of a money city. I mean, some people like that, that it became maybe safer and better for... people who like Disneyland or, I don't know. I mean, Times Square it's like Disneyland, or it's like I shouldn't say it's like it looks like what Hollywood and Highland is now. It's like all these cities are kind of becoming the same, and I think people feel safer, and who am I to say how the world should be, like that.
Right.
I mean, it's these kinds of places maybe just exist somewhere else, but it's not the same. But things change, right? That's just the nature of things.
Mm-hmm. So, but how did a girl from Yonkers get into all this crazy art stuff?
Oh, because what happened is, well, anyway, I'll say I had a pretty rough start of it because when I was younger, I had problems, sort of emotional problems in high school. I was an A student, and then I dropped out because I was such a freak, and I really didn't know where freaks should go.
Right.
And, where I lived, where freaks went was New York, and that's so I would get on the train cut class, go to New York, and then we would go to like clubs and stuff when we were kids. But I never like totally left completely. You know, it's not like I ran away from a horrible home. You know, I mean, I just grew up in the suburbs with regular parents and a blue collar family.
Right.
And ended up going to City College in New York because my parents wanted me to go like to school upstate, and I didn't want to. So I ended up moving into Manhattan, working, then going to City College, and then I went to Kansas City Art Institute because I wanted to finish my art degree, but I couldn't afford to stay in New York and do that. So I went there, which was really cheap but kind of horrible because it was the Midwest. And then and then I went back to New York, was a sex worker for a couple of years, and then I came to LA. I don't know. It's like a zigzag path. It's like, you know, I think that I'm of a time and of a place that's very different than now, or maybe I just had different kind of motivations, so that's why I'm wearing a bee costume at 52 years old on a Saturday afternoon, and I'm not,
revolutionary.
But you know, it's just like I'm just sort of I've always been eccentric. I was voted most bizarre of my graduating class of high school, and that hasn't changed. And you know, I'm just the kind of character. I feel like in some way, I think what I make is serious at some levels, but there's also a lot of humor in my work. And you know, it's funny. I emptied out a storage space yesterday. And I found all this stuff, and I found, like, paintings and drawings I didn't even remember making, which was kind of exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been just sort of years of making things. It's not like, I think now I've read that there's this path where, like, artists, like, go to the right school, then they go do the right residency, then they get the right gallery, and then they get in the right museum. And, you know, my path has been a lot different than that. And it's really about that sort of life journey.
Yeah.
I don't have kids. I don't really own anything.
Yeah.
You know, I got a lot of artwork. I sell here and there. I sell some stuff. I don't always sell. Sometimes I have a gallery. Sometimes I don't. I make films all the time. I mean, I make jerk-off movies with some market for that. They're not really...
Yeah.
Oh, this isn't a
it's
kid
so
show,
free.
is it?
No, you can curse all you want.
Okay.
Say anything you like.
Yeah.
Because they,
what's the market?
Yeah.
Human resources is the market.
Right, because there's no, it's so hard to get people to pay for porn nowadays.
Yeah, but you know, what I make isn't really porn. I mean,
right, that
Johnny
too.
made some great music. One of his great songs is about BP, right, and oil and stuff.
Sure.
That's in my last jerk-off movie, which was shot in Berlin, and it's really a movie about being a tourist. You know, so are you okay? Do I need to give you any more instructions? So there's like in school, one of my friends who's very sharp, he's now, he's a commercials director, he's very successful. He used to say that my films were like too porn for like the experimental film world,
right,
and too experimental for like the porn world. But
yeah.
I did make a few commercial pornos. You know, and they followed a sort of formula, but within that formula, I was able to put my artwork and you know, have my sort of little vision in between, you know, the sex scenes and making a sort of fake story or a story.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
I mean, I relate to that a lot because a lot of times I feel like I'm too nerdy for the art world and I'm too Comic-Con for the... I'm too Comic-Con for the art world, and I'm too arty for Comic-Con. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I just think you're too avant-garde for everyone. They just don't get you yet.
Oh, that's so nice.
See?
That's like the nicest thing you can say to an artist, I think.
Really? People just don't get you. You're ahead of your time, so you just have to be patient and hang in there. Because, you know, the art world is really, really conservative.
Yeah.
It's really, really square. And have you ever noticed that a lot of the most successful videos and stuff have people in them who look like the people who collect them or the people who watch them, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
like in that
of
way,
course,
like
that weird
everything kind of seems like it's sort of the same. And when you don't really fit in and people don't really know what to make of you, or if your artwork isn't like something that they think it should be, or they don't know how to market it, then in that sense it becomes pretty hard to have success on a certain level. Like I see I like all different kinds of art. And the kind of art that I collect is like underground or naive art or like friends art that's not expensive because I like to buy art. But the way that I approach it is very, very different, I think. And the art that I buy, the people make it is because it's like this sort of obsession. You know, like I like art that's obsessive.
Yeah.
And I think that that's very different than an art market that has a kind of people make work to feed a sort of market or something.
Yeah.
I kind of like this. My friend was telling me about her friend who like sits at his kitchen table every night and just makes stuff, and like I like that, you know.
Yeah. So now you were saying you did sex work in New York. How did that opportunity present itself?
Oh God. Well, okay. So I was in Kansas City Art Institute. I got my BFA in sculpture because initially I did ceramics in New York at Hunter College, and that's what really saved me because you know I was really smart, but I hated being in school and taking boring subjects, and I found ceramics. I love that. And my teacher was Susan Peterson, who was very famous, a famous ceramics educator here at USC in like the 50s and 60s, and she's friends with John Mason, Peter Volkus, all these people, Ken Price, she was teachers to some of them. John Mason's like her age, so, but she's dead now. Maybe she's a little older. So I decided I was at Hunter that I was finished with all of my major credits and that I was just going to have to spend 2 years taking like math and science. I was like, why don't I go to real art school? So I applied to different schools in ceramics program, and at the time Kansas City had what was to be known as the best undergraduate ceramics program. So I went out there, and they were really uptight in that department, and they seemed kind of misogynist.
Oh.
Like misogynist. They were kind of sexist. I know that from women who had gone there, and also my friend who was gay. They had these really fantastic project ideas related to AIDS or this or that, and they weren't having any of it. And I mean, this was a time when, like, I volunteered in an AIDS hospice there, and it was secret because people would throw bricks through the window. You know what I mean? It was a very, very different time, and there was a guy I was in school with who had a bathhouse, and the city made him close it down. You know, it was like all these things. So I ended up in sculpture department because the ceramics department was really uptight, and they wanted me to do all this stuff I'd already done, and they said things to me like, sometimes people have too much energy. So, in the sculpture...
What was that about? What do they even mean by that?
Sorry. Yeah. Oh, that's not a kid's. I see these little things. You
can curse. I know, these little cuties.
They were just uptight, and, you know, they have, like, it was very structured. Because, you know, the world of craft is very structured. Like, you see a lot of ceramics and art shows now, but these are not people who... most of them who came out of long-term ceramics programs because it's really taught in a very craft-like way. Just really about process. So I went to study with Jim Leedy, who was amazing. He's an abstract expressionist. And I studied with him for a couple of years, and I studied with Dale Eldred, who ran the department. And it was such a male-dominated department, and I had such a hard time with Dale. What did I say his name? Dale Evans? Is that right? Or is that like a cowboy?
Oh,
Dale, I don't know. His name is Dale something or other. He was like a sort of man conquers nature dude. But a lot of us had this sort of reaction against him. And I actually feel now, like in retrospect, that like, one, I know they were really behind the times. There should have been more education, there should have been more talk about feminism. There should have been more talk about female artists instead of it being all this male stuff. So I kind of flipped out and I became a go-go dancer. Right. So that's how, and I like shaved my head, and so in the day I was like a bald art school chick welding in my combat boots, and at night I put on a little wig and went down there and go-go danced in some other place and drank Hennessy and Coke and, you know, got groped by like some cute guys or whatever, you know. Anyway, it was just a whole, it was also like a scene where the school was so white, it kind of drove me crazy. So I went and worked at this African American club and had some fun. You know, it was just a different time. Yeah. So I did my thesis show there, and I never really considered myself a performance artist, but I did that. I did a show there. It was pretty popular, you know. But, you know, where's the play? I didn't know. I guess I was like Riot Girl, but I didn't know that. But I kind of like...
You didn't know about that scene.
Yeah, I didn't know. But I kind of like... You know, there's a meltdown people have in school sometime when they do projects, you know, where you get very intense about what you do, and that's what happened to me. Yeah. You know,
sure.
So then from that, I like went to Berlin. Hunter wanted me to come back, but I didn't want to go. So I went to Berlin, and I saw this hooker throw this guy in the bushes, and, you know, I felt like I was getting this message, and it was related to, like, my past life there. You know, everything was very intense for me, you know, at the time. I think it was sort of, I don't know, OCD, I don't know what it is. Yeah. So I had this idea that I should just be a sex worker, but not, you know, fuck for money. So I went back to New York, and I was trying to answer ads to be a dominatrix, and this street guy named Cornell said, hey, I used to give him money. I was like, because he would panhandle. We became friends. And I was like, I really want to be a dominatrix. And he was like, hey, there's an S&M house right here. Let me talk to the manager. So he did. And then I ended up working there. Yeah, it was fun. It helped me be less shy, I think.
Yeah, sure.
And I didn't, take notes on every session. I could have made a book about it. But,
right.
I think those books are kind of a dime a dozen. And for me, it was a sort of this is helping me in my life.
Yeah.
So it was for a couple of years I kind of dropped out and got a little crazy. And then after that, I was like, I need to go back to school.
Yeah.
I need to, that was it. I had my second adolescence at the age of 28.
Sure.
Which is Saturn return, if you believe in astrology.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that's how all that happened. And then I used some of those tapes that I made in New York because I was also working at Rafik Film and Video, which is a famous, famous in the underground film scene in New York.
Okay.
So I worked there, and Rafik said, you are going to Hollywood.
Yeah.
The rest of all of my employees are assholes. He liked to drink a lot.
Okay.
Oh yeah, he was a drinker. So
do you still drink at all? Or,
yeah, I drink.
Yeah, but you don't do a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah, I was never good at taking drugs. Because I would try to take coke a little bit, and it sent me so mental. I couldn't handle it. I worked with people who were all on drugs. I just can't handle it. I drink decaf coffee, and look at how hyper I am.
Right.
So I would take a little bump of coke, and I felt oh my god, I need to go to Bellevue. I'm freaking out. I couldn't do it. And I live with people who are just drug addicts. They could handle it. I mean, some people can handle that, and some people cannot, and I could not. Now I just, I drink my wine. I'm a middle-aged lady, drink my wine.
Yeah.
I stop drinking caffeine, or I drink decaf, so I have a little caffeine. One day I'll give up the wine, and then I'll just be, high on life or something.
Yeah.
Smoke a little weed sometimes.
Yeah.
It's easy in California.
It is easy. It's very different out here.
Yeah, you just smoke everyone kind of smokes weed. I didn't smoke weed for 20-something years, but here it's so easy. Get a little weed, smoke it,
Why not? So, it was the guy who worked at that film place who told you should apply to CalArts, or how did that...
Oh, my friend Naomi was there.
Oh, okay.
I was going to apply. I had applied to Hunter again, and that was a couple years later, and they thought I was insane. I could tell. I went on my interview, and the people who gave me the interview were really uptight.
Yeah.
There was one woman there. It may have been Susan Kreil. It may have been Valerie Jadon. I don't remember. Because I think I had class with one of them, so I got confused because they were both, I think, had sort of blonde hair. But,
yeah.
One of them was what she's doing is what a lot of the kids in bands are doing, and they just didn't get me. So I applied to CalArts where my friend Naomi was, and they accepted me,
yeah.
which was and I was the eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I chose film school, and for whatever reason, they accepted my crazy handwritten application, VHS tapes,
yeah.
slides, whatever, and it really changed my life coming here to California.
And what year was that?
God, that was 95. And then I decided to stay here after I graduated because I figured it was much cheaper to live.
Yeah.
And then, I ended up getting married in a kind of business, a little bit of a business deal. And then we fell
why
in
was
love.
that?
For immigration.
Oh, what country was he from?
England.
Okay.
So, are the authorities going to come after us now?
I don't
all these
think
years
so.
Later? But we fell in love, and so we were together for a while, and that kept me here. Otherwise, I would have gone back to New York.
You think so?
Yeah, but the New York I knew no longer exists, so it's good I stayed here. Much better.
So, how long did that last for, that marriage?
10 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
And then 2 years getting divorced. It was complicated.
Oh my gosh.
But we're friends.
Yeah.
So.
And at some point, what are you doing after you finish school to make a living?
I thought I'd work on movies. So I went to work on what you do when you work on movies in art department. I had a friend who's oh, go here, talk to this person, someone I knew from New York. So I went to work on But I'm a Cheerleader, which was a pretty cool movie.
Oh yeah, that's a really important movie to me,
really,
actually.
Yeah.
That was the only gay movie really that they had at Blockbuster that you could rent about gay kids or something like that. And so I feel a lot of kids from my generation really were affected by that movie.
Well, it's a great movie because it's about a young woman, Natasha Lyonne, right, is the star,
Right,
who's gay, and then her family sends her to one of those like rehab camps or
Sure.
something, and then she falls in love, right, with Clea Duvall, or they're
Oh yeah.
yeah. So and then there's and there's a whole campy stuff. I just remember some of the scenes I worked on where there's like a guy chopping wood, you know, I don't know.
And he was like really sexy or something.
Yeah, and he had like little hot pants, and you know, so I did that for a little while, but I and then I thought, well, maybe I'll work in an art department, be a production designer. Someone had offered me a job in my hometown based on my thesis film, and some friends of mine come back and production design our movie, but I didn't want to go back there.
Yeah.
My father just died. I didn't want to be there. So then I decided, okay, I want to make my art. I don't know if I want to be a film. I was trying to decide, and I went to interview on another movie, and I was talking to this guy there, and he was like, you know what, we just pay $100 a day, and if you're an artist and you just want to make money, just keep working at the opera, because I also worked at LA Opera as a PA, and on and off, where you could just kind of work when you wanted and whenever there was work. So I did that, and then I also had I worked for About.com, where I authored an adult website, which was actually starting to bring in a lot of money, and then they fired all of the adult people. Oh, and I worked at BabeNet, which was the internet...
Wait, you were working on a what website that started to make a lot of money?
Adult film. I forgot I did that. I worked at BabeNet, which was a lot of CalArts film people went to work at VCA Pictures or up there in the valley because CalArts was closed. So my friend Adam worked at VCA Pictures. So he got me a job. I went and interviewed at BabeNet, which was, you know, a website, a hetero. I think they had some gay sites too, but it was like the first, you know, when all these porno sites started in like maybe 95, they were in the first wave. They made a shitload of money.
Yeah.
So I worked there in 98, I think, after school. And I worked for my old professor in Arizona. I edited her ceramic textbook. You know, like it just did, you know, bohemian odd jobs. Lived in a really cheap apartment in Silver Lake.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, and decided to not go do a residency or anything. And, you know, I did some with like Cacophony Society. And, you know, I just did little gallery shows, but did not really think about like the art world properly until maybe 10 years later, you know. I started to think about it.
Even though you'd gone to CalArts and everything.
Yeah, because I was making film, but like, you know, what I made wasn't really experimental. I mean, my thesis film, I had made an experimental film that played like different festivals like Rotterdam and those important festivals, right? With my friend Maria Beatty, who is a submissive I worked with, and she's a fetish filmmaker. And, you know, but it's like I wasn't really interested in making those kind of movies. My thesis film was really campy, and I think all my teachers hated it. And basically, I just wrote a narrative script and had all my friends say the lines.
Right.
And then put them in it. So now I have this document of all my friends, like a bunch of my friends I went to school with. And
what was the plot of the film?
The plot was like, this guy was my friend from New York who lives in San Diego, Ian. He like travels.
What's Ian's last name?
Duckett.
Okay, not Ian, I was thinking of.
But he uses different names.
Yeah.
He's like a burner and a fantasy filmmaker. Where he's like, his car breaks down in Newhall, you know, and it's like the desert. And then there's, my other friends are like driving my delivery van, and they're trying to deliver a bag of carrots to someone. And, you know, it's like pretty standard fare. And then there's like an old couple, which is CalArts Bob.
A bag of carrots.
Yeah, like a 50-pound bag of carrots. They have to deliver a bag of carrots and some baby formula.
Sounds like a pretty good movie. And CalArts Bob is there?
CalArts Bob is in the movie, and he was this older gentleman at CalArts.
He was still there when I was
out.
there.
Yes,
Yeah.
Some women complained about him.
He was like jerking off in his car, I think.
No, I don't think, was he?
I don't know.
He was in a couple of my movies. Like, I made a toilet training video that was actually kind of popular. He was in that. When I had Hadrian was wearing like a baby bonnet and a nightgown and was like pooping on the toilet. You know, I made like CalArts stuff.
Actually pooping or just fake pooping?
No, it was about learning. It was from a children's book, learning to use the toilet.
Yeah.
And then so we filmed it with him, and then I don't know what I put in the toilet, paint or something.
Yeah.
You know, and we had like the title was written in fake shit. You know, I made like.
Yeah.
Really, like movies that were really gonna help my career.
Really gross.
Like really, and then so for the one Newhall 91321, that was that was the movie, and someone said it was like got some online review of this is like the most nihilistic film I've ever seen or something.
Yeah.
It was like a nihilistic Altman film. And I was like, oh, what an honor. But, I didn't have any money. I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Like someone loaned me the money to get the negative cut or something. And then my mom gave me some money to make a print. And, because my dad had died and there was a little money. And, and now I have the film and I have DVDs of it and it's online. And, there's also... The pervert is in the movie. There's see, the idea was that like every character was kind of me, and I was going to be in it, but I couldn't art direct it, write it, break down. We had like 11 days and 25 locations or 10, whatever.
Right.
And then the other character is a giant pinata head bear, and he runs around wagging his dick in his pants.
Yeah, okay.
And he's chasing some girl, and everybody just wants to get home. So you see, that's what the plot is. The
Yeah.
plot is that everybody just wants to get home, and in the end, all the different characters end up with other people. Like, they switch. And my friend Rich said, or I say he became a pornographer, but he said, oh yeah, it's like a porn movie without the sex in it.
Yeah.
So that was it. I wanted Tom Anderson to be in the movie, but he didn't want to be in it. Well, the reason why he wouldn't be in it, even though he was in Michael Perkins' movie, is because he was actually dating the person that he was going to be in the scene with, and then they later got married, but it was kind of a secret.
Right, because he was a student.
Yeah, and so then, and the idea in that scene was that the landlord was supposed to think this woman was hot. Yeah. That the idea was that she was sexy, and that's what she was using to not pay her rent, and that he was supposed to play that other character.
Right.
But he said, get Clu Gulager, because you know him, and he's a famous actor. So Clu Gulager played the part.
Okay.
But I think Tom would have understood the role better, but I didn't know at the time.
So when was the first time you got on an actual porn set?
That was... Oh, like on a commercial porno, because I made a fetish film in New York.
Right, of course, but like the whole nine.
The first porn set I was on was at it was something by VCA Pictures. When I was writing about porn, because I had worked up there, so I knew them. And I went to write about a shoot that they were doing, and it was in downtown LA, on like Santa Fe or one of those streets.
Yeah.
And I went and to report on it, and to take pictures and to talk to the performers. And I think that was the first real set I was on. And then on that set, it was Evan Stone, who's this nice guy. He sort of had that, what is that, Fabio, that like long hair.
Yes.
He was there with his dog, and he was letting his dog out he took his dog to the set because it was a long day, and it wasn't like a hot day, like the dogs hung out in the car. And then I saw him taking the dog on a break. And I was like, hey, that is so cool that you take your dog to the set because you don't want your dog to be alone. And I took his picture. Mm-hmm. And then from that, I had the idea to make Porn Star Pets, which was a movie about porn stars and their pets. And then he was in that too with his dog. And
what was and so through that you got to meet a lot of big names in the industry, like Ron Jeremy.
Yeah.
What was he like to work with?
He is someone who, he's a total New Yorker, which is so funny. Like, if you see in the movie, his apartment is crazy. There's papers everywhere.
Oh, yeah, it's a huge mess.
Yeah, but people think he's just like this weird, eccentric guy who just sort of wears rumpled clothing or something.
Yeah.
But he actually owns numerous apartments in the building that look kind of like a dorm room.
Yeah.
He actually owned that apartment. He owned other apartment, and at least one other apartment in the building. He owned some other company. Like, he had all of these kind of investments, and he's actually a really nice guy to work with.
Yeah.
At the time, I think he would be in anything, which was good for us, but, some of the other film choices he made, like he was in some trauma film where he's in a cage, and he did some kind of crazy roles there.
Yeah.
But he was in the film because my producer, Danny Vinnick, he was one of the producers on Spun, which was that, drug movie put out by Muse Films.
Okay.
With, I don't know, half the people in it, I think, are dead. What's her name? Brittany.
Oh,
What's
God.
her name?
Brittany Murphy?
Yeah, I think she was in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, who plays the star? That Jason Schwartzman.
Okay.
It was based on, loosely, it was written by Will Santos, and it's about a guy, I guess, who takes speed around L.A. I think Debbie Harry's in it, or maybe she was supposed to be in it. So anyway, it was I went to a party for that movie in Malibu, and they had, guards there, because there were all these famous actors there. And, that's how Ron ended up in the movie, and he was really nice, I thought. So.
And the person who I thought was the most outrageous in that movie was the lady who had just hundreds. She just had hundreds of, or not hundreds, but she had like a lot of like shepherd Sheltie dogs.
Oh, Terry Weigel.
Yeah.
So she is someone who was really, a lot of these people were very famous in the 90s, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Ron, of course, is a legend, but Terry Weigel had all these Shelties. She had this house out in Woodland Hills, which was really like nice house, and they were people, she was like one of the first people who had her whole house, cams in her whole house.
Yeah.
And that's how she made money.
Yeah, just doing cam shows like all through the day, basically.
And her dogs were so clean. Like I have, this little poodle, and like my dog's a mess all the time. And she had these Shelties groomed, like, I don't know,
a lot. I mean, that was the thing I was thinking is you could never make, because what had happened, it seemed like, was her dogs had puppies, and then she just kept all the puppies. Yeah. She kept every single puppy.
She had enough money to do that.
So you could never maintain that, like, 8-dog household unless you pretty much worked from home. And now I hear that's exactly what she did. She worked from home.
She had cams
throughout the house. She didn't have to leave the house.
And a really nice husband, too.
Yeah.
So she used to travel and dance, which is how, like, I mean, it's still the same today. Imagine, that the performers, that's how they make money. They go and they feature dance at clubs around the country. So she would do that, too, and she had this really nice husband. And then she had the birds, right?
Oh, yeah, I don't know that,
and she had a snake, and, like, she was really sweet. And, these people did this movie for free. At that time, people felt that, like, when you offered people money for a documentary, it wasn't then considered, real. But actually, we made the movie for, like, it looks like a home movie. We made it for next to nothing. My friend John Kuliger shot it. My husband produced it. I, of course, was active in producing it, too, and I directed it, and we all would go out together. Husband would hold the boom. John would do the camera, We had Danny, the producer, gave us a camera for the shoot.
Right.
And it was like a $10,000 budget until it went to post. I edited the movie.
Right.
And then it went to Danny's company in Arizona, and they did the color correction and the what do you call it when they make it to DVD?
So when was the first time you directed commercial porn film?
2006, because I'm checking the time. Don't worry about the car. Because
3 minutes left.
My friend Ian Mackay,
not the punk singer.
Not the punk. Not Ian Mackay, from whatever that band is in DC.
Minor Threat.
Yes,
whatever.
Minor Threat. So my friend Ian, who I went to Cal Arts with, it was a big mystery as to who he was. But he, because he kept his identity secret. He was my friend, and
he kept his identity secret at Cal Arts, or
no, because it was after Cal Arts. Like always, nobody knew who he was, and it was so funny.
Right.
So we all there was this whole myth. He made a movie called Art School Sluts, and I art directed that. So I art directed a few of his movies, or I would at least do a scene if I didn't do the whole movie, something like that. And then from that, Ian helped 2 other people who were working with him. He's like, if you want to direct, make a spec scene, and then we show it to the producer. And at that point, he had gone from VCA. Hustler bought VCA, or Larry Flint bought VCA Pictures. So these movies became Flint movies. So I did one movie for them. That Nietzsche Bangers was the one that was the spec porn, and then Ian shot it. Carl, whose name was Malachi, produced it, and then I directed it and art directed it.
Right.
And then I took it to Hustler, pitched the idea for Silver Lake Swingers, which they changed the title to Silver Lake Scenesters. And this was, I thought it was a film about gentrification. It was kind of a joke, like, look at all these porn stars who live in Silver Lake, but now, they actually do live in Silver Lake.
Yeah.
So and we shot it in my friend's apartment. Yeah. So, like, Hustler gave me the whole budget.
Yeah.
And then I would hired my friends and then paid people to use their homes. And, and then when Ian went to Vivid Alt, when he founded Vivid Alt, then I did a couple movies there.
Okay.
And then it all went to shit, and I was like, I liked working with my friends. I didn't want to go. We did not have typical shoots. They were kind of fun. It was a lot of work, but they were not, like, insane. And the porn world is just too complicated and too dark.
Yeah.
For me, I did not want to be. It was at that moment, in 2008, we made Honey Bunny, and where I had my show at Circus Gallery. We shot the film there. And it was about that time that was like, what was that show? Whack. in the feminist revolution or something. It was maybe 2007
Sure.
year, and I saw that show and I was like, wait a second, do I want to like be a pornographer or I'm an artist? Like I need to wake the fuck up and figure out what I'm doing. So that's when I sort of said, well, I better, you know, figure something out. So that's when I started, you know, I was kind of involved with Lace, and I kind of, because I knew Carol there, and I was like, I think I better maybe shift gears a little.
Sure.
So, I mean, when you see kind of old pornographers and their fans, and there's like, you know, that's not what I want to be when I'm 70, if I live that long. It's just not really, I don't think that's where my place is.
Yeah.
So I still would have made films for Vivid Alt, you know, but Vivid Alt dissolved, and it was a pretty unique thing we had.
Yeah.
So, you know, well, that was it. So now I still always make these little sort of experimental pornos that show in Berlin, Porn Film Festival Berlin, or Cine King, New York, or in a gallery. Some gallerists I think are horrified by my movies, though.
But there's no pressure like there is on a commercial shoot where you have to do all the different poses and everything like that. It's much easier.
No, I mean, for me, it's like the last one was like, my friend Xavier was like, I want to jerk off for you. And I was like, I don't have a camera. He's like, I do. I'm like, okay, I'll shoot some stuff on the iPhone. We shot on his camera.
There
and
you
it's
go.
like, I guess I could put it on Homo Punk, right? I mean,
Right.
Maybe there's a way I could make money at it, but like, it doesn't, you know, what does it matter really? I mean, is it, you know, I don't care. I mean, it's not like I'm gonna make $20,000 from it. I'm gonna make like $10, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you so much, Margie, for coming on the show.
I feel like I just talked a mile.
No, that's what I wanted you to do. I wanted to hear all that crazy stuff. I would love to have you on again.
I want to learn how to play the game because I don't know about these fantasy games. I only know about first shooter games.
First-person shooter games, yeah.
I don't like those. I like this is nicer.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like fantasy games are even starting to move away from. There is obviously, sword fighting and everything in this. But there's a new fantasy game out called Undertale where you have the option of, instead of fighting the monsters, you can become friends with them.
I like that. I want to play
so
that.
it's heading away from
that's what violence, I want to do.
And that's what I like.
Oh, cool.
But thank you so much for coming
on
the show.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Go out there and get that car. Make sure you don't get a ticket on your car.
I parked in a weird spot, so I'm going to go.
All right. Have a great
Thanks
afternoon.
for having me, Johnny. Okay, bye.
Bye.